What up? What up? What up? College Hoops, Coast to Coast, Holiday Edition. Hope you like the intro music. In the background, we're getting ready for Christmas, the last episode of 2020. Kev, what up, man?
It's been a wild week for me, but glad to be back on the show. Glad to get it going again. Lots of basketball has happened. Cannot wait to dive in.
Yeah, lots and lots. So we have three special guests coming at the beginning of the show. So we'll have UAB assistant. We'll have our first head coach on the show, and we'll also have an assistant from the MAC conference. So we'll get to that here shortly, and then we will go coast to coast, conference to conference, as we always do. And we have some special, exciting news toward the end of the show. We can tell you about what's upcoming before the new year. So, Kev, anything that sticks out, man? We could talk about so many things before we dive into conferences. Let's talk in general, man. Lots of hoops.
Lots and lots of hoops. Got to shout out my Northwestern Wildcats last night. How about that? I cannot say I was more surprised than to watch. I thought they would compete in that game against Michigan State. It's home. Michigan State struggled a little bit last couple games, but for them to come out and lead by 21 in the second half and be in control, not blow a lead when they've blown so many leads, it was refreshing to see. And I was at the press conference after, and Chris Collins was like, you could just tell it was a big weight off his shoulders. That's the first time they've been in the top 5 teams since Magic Johnson was playing point guard in college basketball.
1979 is the last time they beat a top 5 team. Keep going, though.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So, it's a big win. It's something you have to build on. I think that's the biggest thing that's frustrating for me is, I tweeted, there have been opportunities to do stuff like this. Maybe not beat Michigan State, but, win games in the Big Ten. They've blown those opportunities. So, can they build on this and be competitive? Let's hope. Big Ten's not going to be easy. I think their next game is a road game at Indiana at Assembly Hall. But, it's one of those games that makes you see and understand what the vision is for Chris Collins, for this program.
Right.
Boo Boo, he played an awesome game of point guard. He's a little Trae Young in his game where he can shoot the ball. But, what makes him really special is the craft and the passing ability, shiftiness going to the basket. I'm not going to call him Trae Young, but, in terms of style of play, spread him out. They're doing a good job of using the 5-out looks with Pete Nance the 5.
Yep.
Puts pressure on the defense because he can kind of distribute from the top of the key, play 5-out. But they're a tough team to guard. They put up 79 points on a good Michigan State defense. And as unhappy as Tom Izzo was, it's a program-defining win for Coach Collins after a rough couple of years, to say the least.
No doubt. And not too long ago, they just played Pitt and did not finish the game the way that they probably wanted to. So, as you said about the point guard, first time somebody scored 30, I believe, in a long time in a game. So many records broken for the first time in a long time for Northwestern. Congratulations to Coach Collins getting that big win last night over a top 5 team.
How about Sunday? We had Demoy Hodge put up 46 for Cleveland State. We had
UCO transfer.
Yes, sir. We had James Bouknight put up 40 for UConn. We had Boo Boo, he put up 30 in a top 5 win. Going back early in the week, Trey Mitchell put up 37 against LaSalle for UMass. Luka Garza put up 30 on Gonzaga. We had some big-time performances this week. We'll get into them second hour, coast to coast.
We did. And then the buzzer beater by Xavier.
Oh, unbelievable shot.
Marquette. Got a shout-out to that one, too.
Unbelievable shot.
Well, we got our first guest here. We got Coach Ryan Cross from UAB. Let's bring him into the studio and welcome him.
Hello, guys.
Coach Cross, what up, man?
How's it going?
Going well, man. How about yourself? You guys feeling good at what are you, 7-1 now, right?
Yeah, we were 7-0 up until Saturday. We had our first loss of the season, lost a close game to Chattanooga. Both of us came into the game 7-0 and didn't necessarily play our best. It was kind of an eye opener to us in a lot of ways, but lost our first one on Saturday. Now preparing, we got Georgia Tech coming in here on Wednesday. So, we're off to a good start. Had a pretty friendly schedule. We've been at home in all but one game. We went on the road, played at East Tennessee. But 8 of our 9 non-conference games were at home, so we've had a good friendly schedule to this point, and taking over a new program, trying to incorporate some new guys. We've got 3 transfers. We returned, some quality guys from their team last year, just trying to kind of integrate all those components. And, that's been probably the biggest challenge for us so far.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the transition, Coach, if you don't mind. I'll let Kevin take over after that. But talk about the transition from the last, not so much the last staff, but just coming in year one, establishing Coach Kennedy's identity, and kind of how that process has been. Obviously, it's been pretty well.
What was probably the most unique about it is, typically, Brian, you've been in this situation before. Typically, when you take over a program, you come in, you evaluate the returning players, you evaluate, that, and then you hit the road recruiting, and you go out and you evaluate, who you need to add to your program and whatnot. But probably the biggest challenge was we took over the program in the midst of a global pandemic where we couldn't. I mean, our players weren't even on campus, the returning guys. First time we met a lot of those guys was, late June, early July. So, trying to do a lot of things over Zoom, and then just not having the luxury of going out and, evaluating guys in person and no campus visits. I mean, we got this job at the beginning of April, and, we haven't had a guy on campus for a visit yet. So, so that's probably been the most unique thing. I think, we hit on 3 transfers. Michael Ertl came here from ULM. He was an all-conference player in the Sun Belt. Quan Jackson, grad transfer from Georgia Southern. He was an all-conference player in the Sun Belt as well. And then Trey Jemison transferred back here from Clemson. And, Trey is he's a Birmingham native. Those 3 guys have had the biggest impact. But, obviously with transfers, you have a better evaluation tool as far as, film. And then, I coached Mike at ULM, and Quan was in the Sun Belt with me. So, I had a pretty good feel for those guys. And then Trey being a Birmingham native, we had a better feel for those guys. But the other guys we brought in, you're guessing a little because, you just didn't get a chance to meet them as much as you typically would.
Yeah, Coach, appreciate you hopping on. I know you mentioned the schedule is a little lighter. As you get a real test against ETSU, 4-point win, and a close loss against Chattanooga, how much do you, and then obviously Georgia Tech game coming up, how much do you think those games will prepare you by playing close games for the rigors of this Conference USA schedule? Because I always feel like you can learn so much. Sometimes you learn more in a loss.
Well, we've had, if you look at our schedule to this point and you look at the scores, we've had a lot of lopsided victories. So, a lot of times, that's not reality. What was encouraging when we went to East Tennessee, I didn't necessarily think we played our best, but we kind of showed some resiliency. We got in a little foul trouble. We, and give them a lot of credit. I think they're a good, they're a good defensive team. Jason Shea is doing a good job there. They've got a winning culture established. They had a lot to do with us not necessarily playing our best, but I thought we showed some toughness, some resiliency down the stretch, and found a way to pull out a road win. And then the other day against Chattanooga, we just, we got off to a great start. We were up 14-2, and I kind of almost felt like our guys, let the foot off the pedal a little bit, let them back in the game, and give them credit. They're a very skilled team. They shoot the ball very well. They've got an experienced roster. I think they'll be wouldn't surprise me if they're a top 4 or 5 team in the Southern Conference. I think they've got a quality team. They do a nice job. They didn't get rattled when we got them down early, and so you kind of those 2 games in this game against Georgia Tech, they kind of get you back to reality. Okay, we got to tighten up in this area. We got to tighten up in another area. Because we all know once you get in conference play, you typically play in a lot closer games.
And, obviously there's so many good bigs in the Conference USA, and adding Trey Jemison would certainly help in that regard. A 7-footer who can, really rebound, block shots, play around the rim. What has he brought so far?
Trey is a real presence inside, especially at this level. He's got a Power Five body, Power Five size. Great kid. Got a tremendous motor, works hard, very conscientious. And he for the first time is playing major minutes. So he's also kind of new to playing this many minutes. But he just from a defensive standpoint, he gives us a guy to protect the paint. He's a rim protector, and I think his offense will continue to grow as he gets more playing time, gets more experience. But he's a great piece for us, and it's a luxury to have a guy with his size, at this level.
All right, last one I have is, when you evaluate your first 8 games, you kind of wrap up this non-conference slate. What's one thing that you feel you guys have done better? You may be further along than you expected to be with, and one area where you guys still need to grow.
Well, the thing that I think has helped us is, we've got 5 players, 3 of them returning from their team that averaged double figures last year. And, we inherited a program. They won 19 games last year. They went 9-9 in the conference. So, a lot of times you take over a program and, you're taking over a program and the cupboard's kind of bare. And I don't think we didn't inherit that type of situation. So we inherited 3 double figure scores. And then a 4th guy, Tim Nicholson, who played, about 18 minutes a game. So we inherited 4 quality players, and we added 3 transfers. And then, we've got a freshman, Ron G. Gordon, who they had signed early, and he's in that mix. He's in our top 8. So I think we've got a quality roster with guys that have already had success at this level. And then, Coach Kennedy is a 12-year vet of the SEC, former SEC head coach, former SEC coach of the year, so it's not like we're in a situation where we got a first-year head coach, So I think just from an experience standpoint, from coaching and playing, that's helped us, hit the ground running and get off to a good start. And, we just got to continue to grow. Our players got to learn to trust one another, to gel together as a team and trust us as a coaching staff. And, if we continue to do that, I think we got a chance to have a nice season.
And just one more. I mean, what's been like working for Coach Kennedy? Obviously, a guy who, he was awesome on TV. I loved his personality. This guy I would kind of want to get a beer with. But he's obviously very experienced. Did a great job at Ole Miss. What's it been like working for him and building a program with him?
Well, Andy and I have been friends for a long time. We go back to when I was a junior college head coach back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we've been good friends for a long time. I think this, what you see on TV, he's a very entertaining personality. He's great with the players. But he's also very competitive and intense. And I think he's got a great mix of, intensity, competitiveness that the players need. But I think he relates extremely well to the players, and just an enjoyable guy to be around on a daily basis. He's funny. He's got an engaging personality. He was a great player here at UAB. So, I think our fan base, our administration, everybody's behind him. Everybody wants us to do well. So all those things combined has equated to, a great start, and just an enjoyable experience.
RC, talk about your own career, man. You've had a lot of success as well. Definitely have been a part of turning programs around. Talk a little bit about your journey real quick before we ask you a funny story and let you go.
As I mentioned, I was lucky at a young age. Steve Forbes, who's now the head coach at Wake Forest, gave me my first job out of college. I was his assistant at the JUCO level. 2 years later, at 24 years old, Steve leaves to go to the University of Idaho as an assistant. I get bumped over and become a head coach. So I was lucky to be a head coach at a young age at the JUCO level, and then was at Barton County. Then I was at Chipola for 4 years. Was the head coach at Chipola. left there to go to Louisiana Tech, and actually spent 11 years in all working for Coach Richard, 3 at Louisiana Tech and 8 at Louisiana Monroe. When we inherited the Louisiana Monroe program, it was really in a tough spot. We inherited severe APR penalties, and really, I mean, you talk about just building a program from the ground up. And in year 4, we played Little Rock for the conference championship. So, we really had to roll our sleeves up and, find kind of different ways to do it. We hit on some international kids, hit the JUCO market, but kind of had a combination of everything, and, had some success there early, and so, it was a big part of building that program. And just after 8 years, I just felt like, this was an opportunity for me to, branch off and be at a good job and work for somebody that I've known for 20 plus years. And so, just been lucky, been around good people. Steve Forbes is a mentor of mine. Keith Richard gave me, a couple different opportunities when I needed them. And then Andy, very, very fortunate for him to give me an opportunity to come here and join him.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Absolutely. And if you ever are on the road with Coach, he always has some good stories. So I won't make you tell one of those stories, but at least tell us at least one funny story before you go, man, because I know you got plenty of them.
Oh, man, funny story. Well, it depends on who's listening. Caught me off guard.
The hardest part for everybody, Coach, if it makes you feel better, the hardest part is trying to figure out one that's air appropriate, because there's a lot of funny stories, but they're not always air appropriate. So if you can find one, that'll be great.
No, not at all. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I've got a lot of stories, going back to my JUCO days, and just kind of have seen it all. Being at the low major level. I tell you a funny story. Back to you. It's our first year. We're Florida Atlantic, and it's like December 29th, December 30th. There's no students there, and I mean there was about 12 people in the stands. And I looked up about 10 minutes into the game, and there was in the upper level there was somebody. They were literally exercising in there. They were jogging the bleachers in the game. And I remember I was irate. I was like, "This is unbelievable." I mean, this is unbelievable. This one broker, and this is unbelievable. And then 4 years later, we're playing Loyola Chicago in the finals of the CBI tournament, and there was about 7,000 fans in there. And I told Coach Richard when he walked out, I said, "Well, 4 years ago we were in here and there was somebody in here exercising, and here we are, and we're playing in front of a sold-out arena." So that's a true story. They were running the stairs, and I remember I tapped the other assistant, and I said, "I wonder if they at least made them buy a ticket to get into the game." Or did the person just walk? I'm just trying to get a workout in. I don't want to watch the game. I just want to come in and get a workout in.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Anyway, a lot more stories behind that one.
Yeah, for sure, Coach. Well, good luck the rest of the way, man. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll have to have you back on, and keep up the great work, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I love that story. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be exercising right now in the pandemic, but definitely it can show some progress right there. Good stuff. So we got a quick transition. So we go from UAB and Conference USA. We are now going to talk to our first head coach on the show. Excited about that. I've known Coach Howard for quite some time when he was a head coach at a non-Division I. I've seen him as an assistant Division I and go back to being a head coach, and now he's in a situation where he's a head coach again at a Division I, well-earned, a guy who definitely works at his craft and tremendous person, treats everybody with respect, and just a guy who rolls up his sleeves. So I'm excited. He's at two. They're 2-0, undefeated. 2 monster wins within their state, which is always a big deal. And we always want to make sure we're showing HBCU some love. So we got Coach Dylan Howard from Alabama A&M. Coach, welcome.
Thank you. Just so glad to be here. And I'm going to still address you as Coach Burton. You still Coach Burton to me.
Hey, nothing changes, man. I'm still a coach. I'm never going to change that part. But excited to be doing some new things and super excited to have you on, Coach. So tell us, man, you had a double overtime. Is it double overtime or overtime?
No, it's double overtime.
Double overtime win you just came off of, and then you also have another win within the state. We'll talk about the last win first, if you don't mind.
No problem. Yeah, I mean that was a huge game against South Alabama. We knew coming into the game, South Alabama, I mean, they were a very good team, very well coached team by Coach Richie Riley. Coach Riley has done a great job wherever he's been, either as an assistant or a head coach. And coming into the game, we knew that we had to concentrate on defense first, because South Alabama is known to shoot a lot of threes, score a lot of points. They had, I think, 5 guys that averaged double figures, and another one averaged 9 points. So, our main focus was we knew we had to stop them from scoring, especially in transition and shooting a ton of threes. And we were able to do that. My players throughout the game really executed the game plan. And we had a big lead, and we gave up that lead. And, that's just a credit to South Alabama, with all that experience, all the veterans that they have. But my guys, they just kept fighting through the adversity. And we were able to pull out a huge victory.
How did you get the game, Coach? We know pandemic is going on and scheduling is tricky as can be. Was the game always set up to be? I believe it was at your place, right? Was it always set up to be at your place? Did you have to do some monster recruiting to convince them? Because normally, for those that don't know, normally in state, it's hard to get a home game against a team like that. So how did you pull that off, Coach?
Well, the contract was made. I guess when I came in under Donnie Marsh, and I was the associate head coach. So the contract was actually already made. I think Coach Marsh had put together the contract, and basically what it was a 2-for-1. And so we had to go to their place twice, and they would come to us once. And so that's how we were able to get them to come to our place. And a lot of people don't realize, when you come to the Dog Pound, it's tough to play here at the Dog Pound. I think a few in-state schools are realizing that.
Tell us about the Dog Pound before we talk about. Obviously, there's no students here, so tell us about playing in your home court and your home court advantage, even when you're in league. Tell us about what that environment's like.
I really do feel as though we have the best fans, the best home court advantage. Now, obviously, with the pandemic, now things change a little bit. But our gym, let's just say in the past, it rocks. We've got a section over there by the visitors bench, and it's called the Dog Pound. And that's usually where all the students will be seated. A lot of rowdy football players, a bunch of other student athletes, and they really wreak havoc throughout the game. But even now, we're limited as far as the fans that we're going to have at the games, but we could still hear our fans against South Alabama with limited capacity, because our gym, we're right on top of the floor as far as the seating. So we're able to hear our fans, and they were huge in this game against South Alabama.
So you actually had fans in the building?
We actually had some fans in the building. I said it's limited capacity. Our athletic director, Mr. Brian Hicks, and our director of facility, Dexter Williams, they were able to figure out a way to keep the social distancing and still have a limited amount of fans.
Yeah, credit to them. So as we're talking about administration, Coach, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about your administration and kind of what's made them good, because you get to see a lot about an administration when you're going through times like this. So obviously you guys are having success. You're having fans at home. Talk a little bit about your administration, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, not a problem. And it always starts from the top. We have a great president, Dr. Andrew Hougini, who actually gave me a chance at this job by first me being the interim coach and then announcing me as the head coach. But Dr. Hougini has just been great for the whole university and for athletics. Our athletic director, Mr. Brian Hicks, just brings a lot of experience to the table, knows what he's doing. He's always for the student athletes. He's for each and every athletic program to make sure, they're getting what they need to be successful. And it's just been a wonderful experience here. We're in the process of building a multi-event center, which will house men's and women's basketball and volleyball, and that should be completed in 2 years. So, and that's credit to Dr. Andrew Hougini. So, the upside for the whole program and for the school is just great. Alabama A&M, we're already in a great city in Huntsville, Alabama, and now we're going to add a multi-event center. So big things are on the horizon for Alabama A&M.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, Coach, I know you guys had a couple of games canceled. I think it was about 20 days or so. You went between games from that win over Samford to the win over South Alabama. You had 3 guys, though, who played 42 minutes or more in that victory. How were you guys able to have enough legs to find a way to pull out a double overtime win after that layoff?
Ooh, tell me about it. Well, it's been tough, and I know it's been tough on most of the programs around the nation. Going into the South Alabama game, we were in quarantine for, I guess, 10, 11 days, and we were able to get in probably 4 solid practices before we played South Alabama. But, my guys, it's just a great bunch of guys, great bunch of players. And that, that's due to my assistant coaches just recruiting what we need in this program. And first thing we look at is high character guys that love basketball. So even though we were in quarantine, our guys were still doing like some cardio work, even in their rooms as they were isolated, just to try to have some type of conditioning or try to do something. And then once we got back on the court, we took it slow, a bunch of individual workouts, a lot of shooting, just to try to get prepared for South Alabama. But that's one thing about our guys. They're resilient and they can handle adversity. Even though we're a young group, a lot of the guys that are playing major minutes played major minutes last year. And Cameron Tucker, Garrett Hicks, E.J. Williams, Jalen Johnson, that's 4 starters that were freshmen last year that are sophomores this year. And they know what it's all about. And so we were able to overcome a lot of adversity here in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
And what does getting a couple of in-state wins, a couple of massive confidence boosters, what does that do for a talented sophomore class like you guys have? How much does that boost you guys going into league play, and also really reinforce what you guys have been pushing with them for the last year and a half since you got them there?
I think it's a huge confidence booster, and it really kind of started last year where we got 3 big in-state wins last year. So we knew, even though we're young, we knew we could compete with several other in-state schools. And this year, like I said, we played 2 of the better in-state schools in South Alabama and Samford. But it helps with guys that buy into what the coaches are selling. And that's what we have. We've got players that have bought in from day one. They don't complain. They live in the gym. We don't have to tell them to come into the gym to get extra shots or work on your ball handling. They love to be in the gym, and that goes a long way. So going into SWAC play, being 2-0, it is a huge confidence booster because we know the SWAC is going to be tough every year. If people only knew as far as how tough the SWAC is, we got great players, great coaches that really know what they're doing and do a great job of recruiting very high talented players. And so we knew we had to match that. And that's a credit to my assistant coaches that do a great job.
Coach, talk a little bit about the SWAC conference. Most people don't know much about it. Probably don't want to give it a lot of respect. We want to make sure we're getting people their HBCU education here on the show. So tell a little bit about the SWAC. Obviously, we know Maker decided to come, a 5-star decided to come to an HBCU. So maybe not the SWAC, but that gave more attention to HBCUs in general. So talk a little bit about that level of play and how competitive it is.
I mean, it's just highly, highly competitive. I mean, I can just go down the line, and you've got, Texas Southern is maybe the flagship program of the SWAC, where, a couple years ago it was Mike Davis that did a great job at Texas Southern. Now it's Johnny Jones, where they're able to, you're recruiting to a city of Houston. So you're able to get a lot of good D1 transfers and some grad transfers in that program. Coach Johnny Jones, veteran. Me and Johnny Jones go back a long way. When I was at Hardin Simmons and he was at North Texas, he used to give me some games where we would go down to North Texas and play, but he does an excellent job. Coach Sean Woods, one of my best friends, and I worked for Coach Woods for over 8 years at Mississippi Valley State and at Morehead State, where we were able to do some great things at both schools. Just another great coach who's got been to the NCAA tournament and does a great job with the Southern program. Coach Byron Smith, Prairie View, has been to the NCAA tournament the last maybe 2 years. Just another excellent coach that really gets his guys to play very hard. Dante Jackson at Grambling, Wayne Brent, George Ivory. I mean, we've got some very, very good coaches that do an excellent job in preparing their teams each and every day to be competitive. So we know going into the SWAC, it's going to be another tough year. And just hopefully with my young guys having another year of experience under their belt, and we brought in a very good recruiting class, hopefully we'll be competing for one of those top spots.
Absolutely, Coach. Before we let you go, man, talk a little bit about your staff, if you don't mind, and then also tell us a funny story. It doesn't have to be about your staff, but it can be.
No, it's just been a pleasure to work with this staff. Coach Derek Tillman, which a lot of coaches around the nation know him as DT, and I was able to kind of recruit DT to come to Morehead when I was the associate head coach, and Coach Woods was the head coach. He said, once we had an opening, he said, find me a guy that, who's been around, who's a veteran, who knows the lay of the land. And Coach Derek Tillman, I was able to hire him at Morehead State. And then obviously once I got the head coaching job here, he was my first hire. Just does an excellent job with players on and off the court. He's my big man coach, and you can see our big man developing each and every day. Antoine Banks, someone who has head coaching experience and HBCU experience, which is very valuable to a HBCU school as you build a program. He was the head coach of Kentucky State, knows a lot of coaches around the nation, does a great job recruiting, great job of networking. And then our other assistant, Carl Richburg, played at Miami of Ohio, coached up under Zoe Martin at Missouri. And he's just an excellent X&O guy. Does a lot of my individual workouts with the players, very organized, detail-oriented. And then our director of basketball operations, which every coach needs a director of basketball operations like Pat Richardson. Pat's been around Alabama A&M for a lot of years, and he just makes sure that this program is run correctly. So, it's a credit to this staff that, they're one of the main reasons we're 2-0 right now.
For sure. Now you got to end us with that funny story, Coach. I know you've been around the block. You've been a head coach. You've been an assistant coach. You've been at all levels. We got a comment real quick. Darrell Robinson, Coach Darrell Robinson said, DT, good people.
Very good people. Very good people. Now, this is going to be a quick, funny story, and it's me. So, every year as you go to the Final Four, you always see coaches, they might have a boot on. I've seen coaches with the scooter, and usually it's due to getting out in practice and, doing some things with the players that, their mind is telling them one thing and their body's telling them something totally different. Well, that kind of happened to me this past season. So I'm like, okay, I got to show this young man how to sprint to the corner and get open. And so I'm running to the corner, getting ready to show him, hey, this is how you got to do it. And as I'm running to the corner, my foot just gets caught on the gym floor and I go tumbling and flipping and rolling all the way to the corner. They just cracked up laughing. But my first thing was like, man, I hope I didn't break anything because I'm going to be at the Final Four in a cast or in a boot or anything. So, sometimes as a coach, you got to laugh at yourself. So I get in my office and after the practice and I'm just falling out laughing. I said, I just can't believe I did that. Rolling down the court trying to demonstrate to a player how to do it. So that's just basically one of my funny stories on myself.
I love it. I love it, Coach. Well, congratulations from going from interim to head coach. You definitely deserve it. And hopefully they see now how great of a decision that they made and they extend that even more, whatever it already is. But congratulations, Coach. Keep up the great work. Happy holidays, man. We look forward to continuing to support this way.
Happy holidays to both of you. And hey, I commend you. Keep doing the great work that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Awesome. I love it, man. Anytime you can get a head coach on to show some love to his staff, and what a start to the season those guys have had, and to win those two big in-state games I don't think people really understand how big of a deal that is. And I know whether or not people want to admit it or not, I don't think anybody expected them to win either one of those games, let alone both. Kevin, I know you do a lot of watching hoops, and you've seen a lot of things in this thing as far as from your viewpoint. How surprised are you that they've been able to pull that off?
I mean, it's a tough thing. It's tough, right? I mean, it is not easy to do what they have done, and particularly when you're dealing with the year that everyone's had to deal with, like to come out and be as good as they have been, I think says this is a heck of a lot.
Right. So speaking of being as good as they've been, we'll go straight to our next guest. We'll go to the East Coast. We've done the down south thing. We'll go East Coast up to New York, Marist College, and we'll have Coach Serge Clement jump in the studio. Serge, what up, man?
Yo, fellas, what's going on? Can you hear me?
That red's popping over there, man. That red's popping. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Can y'all hear me, man? I'm struggling with my computer this morning, so I'm on the phone.
No, we're good. We can hear you. We definitely can hear you loud and clear. Congratulations on an overtime win last night, right?
Yeah, man. Thank you. Hard fought win. So it was hard to win at Draddy, Manhattan College. Real tough place to play at. We're fortunate to come out with a victory last night.
For sure. I'm gonna let Kevin kind of take it away, but you guys are 5-1. The hot start to the season was not expected. He knows a lot about this conference, so I'm gonna let him take it over for a little bit. I'll be back. But congrats on the 5-1 start, and I'll let Kevin lead the way.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Brian before the show, and to be 5-1 at Marist with the things that this program has been through the last 10 years or so, I mean, it is so impressive, and particularly to sweep a road series. I think that's why I really wanted to start with you, because it seems like everyone's splitting these home and home, or these one site, single weekend, 2-game in a weekend type deal. How important is it to not only sweep a series, but sweep a road series as you're jockeying for position in MAC play? And what were the challenges that went into playing a team like Manhattan twice in 2 days?
It started from the physicality standpoint. Manhattan is really physical, and to win that first night, then to drive back home that night, wake up the next morning. I think a schedule was 9:30 a.m. film on the bus by 10:15. They made it to Draddy again the second day by 12:30. It's just the emotion. We were afraid of just the emotional letdown of after winning that night and then having to repeat that the next day. And our emphasis was we don't have to win by 100. It's just get the win. Just get the win any means necessary.
And obviously, you guys added a bunch of guys, particularly in the backcourt, that have really boosted you. Obviously, I was watching your freshman point guard Hakeem Bird, and he certainly brought a lot. But between Wright, Sullivan, and Bird, it really boosted that backcourt. Can you speak about those newcomers and what it's done for your program?
Oh, for sure. We knew we had a pretty decent. We struggled last year with the 7-win team last year, but we knew we had some pieces, and the one thing we were able to do was shoot the ball. And then we knew that we were deficient with ball handling as far as getting in the paint and being able to get guys to create off the bounce. And by adding these 3 new guys with the shooting that we already had, that was kind of the formula for success for us. We just had adding those guards and being able to get buckets that we weren't able to generate last year. And those 3 guys play well off each other, and it's been fun just seeing them grow up. Because this entire thing right now, as you know, Kev, is an accelerated process. Everyone, you're not able to teach every single detail as you would as it would be in a regular year. So these guys are just enjoying playing and getting instruction, but being able to just get out there and play and just display their talent has been a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because there's a bunch of MAC teams shut down. My brain might be broken here, but I want to say you guys had an issue in November and paused. I mean, how were you guys able to still install what you wanted to get in before the season began, dealing with some of those shutdowns during the fall?
Yeah, you know what? It's been challenging across the entire country for a lot of programs, and us in particular. Just a quick synopsis of what has happened since we got back to school in August. We weren't able to touch a ball nor play with contact since we arrived on campus since August 23rd. The first time we actually touched the ball was the second week of October, and we were in pods. And with that, we weren't even playing with contact. So we, it's been a long journey as it relates to that. And the one thing about these guys is that they've been resilient. They just want to play. So it hasn't, as it relates to the whole pandemic, these guys just want to play. They just want to be out there. And we're fortunate enough to be out there. And as whatever institution, however every institution does their protocols as it relates to COVID, we're adhering by what our school is doing, and we accept it. And as long as everyone is safe, we'll roll with the punches, and we have been doing that.
Coach Dunn is obviously known for his defense and playing a very grinded out style. And obviously this weekend, no different. You held Manhattan to 39 points on Saturday and only 67 in an overtime game on Sunday. Talk about how you guys have been able to be so locked in on the defensive end so far.
I think Coach Dunn does an excellent job as it relates to keeping these guys engaged on both ends of the floor. Manhattan with Coach Masiello and their staff, they do a fantastic job. And to hold Manhattan to whatever we held them to this weekend, I was a little bit shocked myself, because it's just so early in the season, and we're playing defense as if when we're in mid-February right now, and it feels good. And then also when the ball goes in a little bit, you get a little bit more energy on the other end as well. So it's a combination of both of those, but Coach is always staying locked in. Scouting report defense is the number one thing for him. One of his pet peeves is just not being able to focus the walkthrough. If you can't focus the walkthrough, then you can't play for Coach Dunn. And that's the one thing that he's constantly built, and he's instilled in all these young guys. And it's going to be, like as I said before, it's going to be an accelerated process with these young guys, because still in walkthrough, you can see some guys playing with their hair, tinkling with their fingers. It's just the focus level. But we'll get there, and then once we get there, then we'll know that we'll be on to something great.
And it seemed like Marist just needed to change the culture, and John Dunn is as blue collar a guy as I think there is in the MAC and in the Northeast and in college basketball. I mean, you watch the St. Peter's teams way back, and those teams were as tough as they come in terms of how hard they played. Do you think that being in year 3, you're finally seeing that culture kick in with your program?
Yeah, we do. Obviously building a culture, it takes time, and that's the one thing. As you see in college basketball, everyone wants instant gratification. Win tomorrow or else. But our administration at Marist College is giving Coach Dunn the free reign. Like get the job done. We won't hoover over your shoulders. We'll make sure that we'll put the people around you and the resources around you to make sure that we can get this thing done. And that's what Coach Dunn is doing, man. Obviously, culture is not an overnight thing, and as I stated before, and it's just getting the guys that want to win, that want to buy in, and that believe in us and the coaching staff. And I think Coach Dunn has put a lot of people in a good positions to adhere to the culture that's currently being implemented all over right now.
A little too excited. Obviously, I know you well, Coach, and been rooting for you, man. I know in this conference, there's usually a team that's picked at the top. Kevin happens to know those guys fairly well. So I'm curious what it's like for you, knowing that you guys are probably more the underdog in the conference, starting off to this 5-1 start. What has that been like for you guys?
You're a little, Coach B, you're a little choppy on that. I couldn't hear.
Kevin, can you take that?
Yeah, I think he was just saying that given you guys are, you hear all every year about Iona, with the job they've done with under Tim Cluse and now Coach Pitino, and Sienna's a perennially well-regarded program. You guys come in with that underdog mentality with the struggles you've had. How does it feel to be up where you are now at 5-1, and how could it translate moving forward? I think was the best way I could frame this question.
Yeah, no, it's all right. To be really honest with you, just I don't want to get into too much detail, but just looking at the staff we that Coach Dunn assembled, and I had a big part to do with that, is everyone on the staff is underdogs. Coach Dunn is an underdog. I've been an underdog. Coach DeLeap has been an underdog. Coach Kevin Driscoll's been an underdog. Coach Dorian Long's been an underdog. So when you're an underdog, that mentality always sticks with you. And despite being where we are now, we know what it feels like to win 7 games. I know what it feels like to go through a couple losing seasons. But then, as you're building culture, you can see the fruits of your labor by the time as you progress, if you're doing things the right way and the correct way. And I think, being 5-1, yeah, it's great, but there's a lot left to go. And just keep telling these guys and keep instilling these guys that we're not done yet, and there's still room for growth, which there is. But I think the whole underdog thing starts with just the staff and just every day how we carry ourselves. I don't feel 5-1. I feel 1-5, to be really honest with you.
Right.
Right. Because I know what it's like to go through a 7-1 season, and in the blink of an eye, it could be gone. So, we're level-headed, and it's just about keeping these guys level-headed as well. And I think we do a good job with that.
Kevin, I'm not sure. Sir, can you hear me? I'm gonna have to go through Kevin again.
I got you in and out, Coach B.
That's all right. I'll go through Kevin. Kevin, we'll end with these two. Just what is it like? How do you keep those guys focused? What is the goal for the season? How do you keep those guys going when you're 5-1? And then secondly, tell us at least one funny story before you take off.
You know what, man? It's literally everything is so fickle right now. So, keeping these guys level-headed and grounded is really, you always hear take it one game at a time, but really it is one game at a time. So one test result, you're done. You're done for a while. You're shelved for a while. So literally it is one game at a time. And I think that's what we've been instilling into these guys, to just do the right thing on and off the court, and understand that it's literally one game at a time, because it's a back-to-back Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. So you're preparing 4 days, 5 days, or contingent upon the days you take off or day you take off. But it's really one day at a time, one step, one thought, one vision. And it's literally that way, because as you know, you see a lot of teams across the country getting shelved due to positive tests. So it's literally one game at a time, Kevin and Coach B. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Funny story. Sorry, I know we're going one day at a time. Now we're gonna go one funny joke at a time.
I always think back to this though. With my one funny story, Kev. Since you're pretty much on the East Coast and and obviously St. Peter's has been a big time place in my heart, because if it wasn't for St. Peter's, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. But the funny story I have, man, is when we took the job at Marison, I came down with Coach Dunn that day, and I walked into the locker room, going from St. Peter's locker room to Marist locker room. I literally just dropped on the floor and did a snow angel. I was like, Mama, I made it.
It's crazy because I don't think people realize how good a job that John Dunn did at St. Peter's and how good a job that Shaheen Holloway is doing in St. Peter's. Like, that is a difficult place to do what he has done. They deserve a ton of credit. You guys deserve a ton of credit. And Marist is a place with a lot of potential. I remember I've been to the campus a couple times, and beautiful, beautiful campus. And I think obviously the women's team has been very successful, and you guys have it on the right track. So awesome chatting with you, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Coach B. Man, I know you've been in and out because I don't know if it's my service or yours.
We'll blame it on the cell phone. We'll blame it on the cell phone.
Yeah, it's probably me. Just blame me. It's okay, man.
I'm kidding. Hey, you probably won it. At least if you get something wrong, we'll take that. All right, you keep winning those games. We'll worry about the cell phone later.
Nah, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you, Coach B. I love what you're doing, man, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I appreciate your time, man.
Okay, Serge.
All right, brother.
Happy holidays, man. Yeah, so we got another one. Great, some hot starts to the season. Some teams that don't always get the love. Excited to have those guys on, and we'll go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll get to Coast to Coast and kind of zip through. I want to take time to acknowledge one of our partners, Rising Coaches. Every coach wants to rise in their career in one way or another. We're all looking for professional development, access to tools, and relationships that can help us grow and help us advance in our career. Rising Coaches provides just that. You can visit Rising Coaches at www.risingcoaches.com. Their memberships are just $10 a month and provides a genuine community to help you grow and advance in your career. We are back. We're going to go straight to let's go straight Power 5. Let's talk Big Ten ACC Challenge to start. That way we can kind of cover both leagues, and then we can also just kind of talk about anything else that's going on in those leagues. I know we led with Northwestern getting their big win over Michigan State. Congratulations to them. But there's been a lot of big wins with it. So let's talk Big Ten ACC Challenge, and then we'll go to everything else.
If I'm not mistaken, again, I think the time it's Groundhog Day out here. I think we hit Big Ten ACC last week, unless I'm tripping. But regardless, lots to get to for both leagues.
Let's do Big Ten then first. Yeah. We've already done. Let's do Big Ten.
I want to shout out Rutgers because I pulled this out on Twitter. Rutgers under Steve Peichel, when they gave up more than 75 points, was 0-27. That was until yesterday when they beat Illinois 91-88. Like, this is not your parents' Rutgers team. This is not even like your 3 years ago Rutgers team. They can score. They can go score with anybody in the country. Ron Harper is balling out. He had 28 yesterday, had 5 threes. Jacob Young's playing at a high level as a senior. Mulcahy's a great glue guy. Mathis has improved. Miles Johnson's impact rim protector. For them to win, over a great Illinois team says a whole lot. Again, I was at the rack, but there's no fans. Rutgers is still protecting the rack like crazy. I honestly think Steve Peichel has convinced Rutgers' players that they would beat the Lakers at the rack. Like, they just play with so much confidence. That building is unbelievable to watch. So they're really, really good. And I think they should be a top 10 team right now with what they've accomplished, what they did last week. They beat Syracuse in the Big Ten ACC, then turned around, beat Maryland, and then knocked off Illinois. So they're doing a great job at Rutgers. No drop off whatsoever. Iowa competed well against Gonzaga, just didn't have quite enough, defensively to finish that game. Wisconsin dominated Louisville and beat Loyola Chicago. Big time week for them. Obviously, Louisville was very shorthanded without Carlick Jones, their star point guard. I know they were dealing with some COVID issues, Louisville, and so guys were still coming back. But big time win for the Badgers to win that game by 35 points and beat Loyola fairly comfortably in the second half after it was a close game for most of the way. Talked about Northwestern already. Really don't have a ton else. Minnesota over St. Louis is a big time win for them. They're at 7-1. They haven't really played anybody, and got blown until that St. Louis game. Got blown up by Illinois, and maybe thinking they weren't legit. But beating St. Louis is a big deal. It's a very good St. Louis team that's beaten LSU, that's beaten NC State. So to beat them at the barn is a nice win to move forward with. So John Rothstein tweeted yesterday, but there really is no bottom in the Big Ten right now. I mean, Nebraska's 4-3. They look like maybe they're a little bit below everybody else, but their 3 losses are a 3-point loss to Nevada on a buzzer beater. They lost by 11 to Georgia Tech, and they got blown out by their in-state rival Creighton. Like, they're not bad. Like, they're better than they were last year. The problem is there's not going to be a lot of wins for them. And that's why we're about with Northwestern. Like, Northwestern's improved. They clearly have, but can they get to like an 8-12 in the league? I don't know if they can. And if they can't, and even if they go 8-12, they're going to finish 11-13 on the season. And to finish under 500 when they would probably, if they go 8-12, be a top 50-ish team in the country in KenPom. That's tough. But it's a grinder of a league, man. There's going to be a lot of tough games, and it's not going to be easy to go on the road. I mean, Michigan State goes on the road. They lose to Northwestern, and the road doesn't get easy. Northwestern's rewarded by beating Michigan State by being underdogs in KenPom in every game they have the rest of the way until March the 3rd. And they're the 58th ranked team in the country. I mean, come on, folks. This league is unbelievable. That's all I got on the Big Ten. It is just a tough league, tough sledding.
Yeah, Big Ten, another shout out to Ohio State as well. They're ranked in the top 25 and got a good win against Notre Dame here recently, and then also beat UCLA. So I want to give them some love. And then Juwan Howard's team is still one of the undefeated teams in the country at 6-0. So like you said, there's no real bottom to this league. Big time matchup between Iowa and Gonzaga. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. I know that was a much anticipated matchup. 2 top 5 teams in the country, and Luka Garza had a good individual performance, but as a team, Gonzaga just looked like they were on another level. But I'll let you talk a little bit about that before we switch to the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm very disappointed because I got asked by my buddy Sean Bach, who runs the Iowa 24/7 sports page, to do a game prediction, like a score prediction. I said Gonzaga 98, Iowa 87, and I finished 99-88. Could we have missed one free throw each? Could we have done this? I mean, that would have been epic. But regardless, Luka Garza was great. Joey's camp was great. I would really try to make a push in the second half. They just couldn't quite get enough stops, and Jordan Bohannon didn't shoot it great. Like, for Iowa to win a game against an elite, Gonzaga, Baylor, whatever, I think they're going to have to shoot it. And Iowa shot 4 for 22 from 3, 14 for 26 from the free throw line. That's just not very characteristic of what this team is.
Yep.
But to me, like, obviously Gonzaga come off a shutdown, but you give up 13 threes to an offense that has one of the better bigs in the country, Drew Timme, that is loaded in every way. You have 13 threes, you shoot it really poorly, and you're in the game. I think you take that if you're Iowa. I think it proves that you're legit. I think it proves that you can play at a high level.
No, I agree. And although Gonzaga looked like they were playing at a faster pace sometimes, when you look at the numbers, the shooting numbers, that Iowa normally shoot the ball much better. They won't have many shooting nights where they shoot it as poorly as they did. So look forward to kind of seeing how that whole thing progresses. Let's talk ACC. No, we talked Big Ten, ACC games. Let's talk about the ACC conference in general, what you saw out of there.
Duke bounced back with a win over Notre Dame. Now they take their little break to go home. Was impressed with Virginia Tech to beat Clemson on Tuesday. Watched a good amount of that game. Was very, very impressed with Virginia Tech bouncing back after a bad loss when they got blown out by Penn State. Keep Clemson their first loss of the year. They're a deep team with a lot of really good guards. Tyrese Radford, Naheem Aline, Hunter Couture. I mean, they're deep in the backcourt. They're going to be a tough team to beat in that conference. I think Pitt deserves some credit. They lost their season opener. St. Francis, everyone was ready to, jump off a bridge, and they turn around. They win 5 in a row. They win at Northwestern. They win at Miami on Wednesday. It's a nice way to get it started turning around. Otherwise, don't really have a ton. Teams are getting back healthy. I know Wake Forest has had a very lengthy COVID shutdown. They haven't played since November 27th. They're not supposed to play again until December the 30th. Maybe they'll get in a game here this week, but they've dealt some stuff. Hopefully they can get healthy. And Georgia Tech is 4-1 after they started having contact practices. Again, I mean, the last two games have been against Florida A&M and Delaware State, which they should probably beat even if they don't have contact practices. But they got UAB coming up on a game on Wednesday. That'll be really interesting. So that's what I'm looking for in the conference.
Yeah, they started conference play. You always love when they do that because you never know who's going to come out. And it looks like Wake Forest, the only undefeated team at 2-0 in the league, have played the least amount of games of everyone in the league. But Steve Forbes and their crew off to a good start there. And the Wolfpack, want to give them a little shout out too at 4-1, getting off to a great start as well. So we'll switch from ACC and go straight West Coast. We'll go to the Pac-12 and talk a little bit about what's going on out there.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, Oregon got a tough test in the first half from San Francisco and then pulled away in the second.
Yeah,
they really blitzed USF in the last 5-ish minutes of the first half and the first 5-ish minutes of the second half. Pulled away. USF was only 8 for 35 from 3. I've always said that Todd Golden's a really good game planner in terms of putting together a plan to go beat an elite team. They did against Virginia. They've had Gonzaga on the ropes a couple times in the last couple of years. But oftentimes those game plans are built upon making a lot of threes, and they shot 8 for 35 from deep. You know, they're one of their best shooters. Khalil Shabazz was 1 for 9 in the game. I think on the season, Shabazz is shooting at a very high level. Against like Virginia, he made 3 for 4. He had 4 threes against Nevada in their win. He had 4 against Cal. He had 5 yesterday against Grand Canyon. So that's just not who they are. But they hung in the game. Just couldn't find a way to finish it. Stanford got a very nice win over Arizona on Saturday. That was Arizona's first loss of the year. Meanwhile, Arizona State is really dealing with some problems now. 4-3. Again, like UTEP's a solid team with some good talented players. You would know that better than anyone. But they lose that game at home, coming off a 1-point win over Grand Canyon, getting blown out by San Diego State, a close win against Cal. All the way back, they didn't play that great at Mohegan Sun. So for a team that's picked in the top 15, top 20 in the preseason, they got a lot of work to do, and little 2-week layoff to figure some stuff out. Obviously around the holidays, maybe guys will be traveling and come back. Go to the Washington road swing. Go to Washington and Washington State, 2 teams that they should beat. We'll see if they can win them. Yeah,
they are 1-0 in conference play. So everyone's kind of banking on that conference play and getting going in that season, and that's really important, of course. But a few teams to recognize and just again continue to play well. Washington State is sitting at 6-0, one of the few undefeated teams in the country. The Buffaloes from Colorado. Sitting at 5-1, which I don't know that people would have necessarily expected that. The Huskies are struggling, 1-6. Hopefully they can get some things turned around there. Arizona 5-1, and then just Utah 4-1 as well, and then USC sitting at 4-1. So just kind of really wide open. I mean, I think Oregon getting Figueroa eligible definitely gives them a boost, but not sure if there's a clear-cut favorite in the Pac-12 as much as people may have thought it was going to be UCLA, Arizona State. It looks like it could be completely wide open.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. And I think, Oregon will even get a little bit stronger. They get a waiver, or not a waiver. They get the everyone eligible deal with the kid, Aaron Estrada, who was at St. Peter's last year, like a scoring point guard who, maybe he'll help them. Maybe he doesn't play much. We'll see. He hasn't played a ton in their first 2 games, but got some run late in that Portland State game and had a couple of buckets. So who knows? Maybe he gives them a little bit of a boost to push them over the top of the Pac-12.
Right. We'll go straight to the Big 12 conference. A lot of stuff to talk about here. Baylor's still sitting pretty. Kansas has played well. Texas is maybe playing as well as anyone right now, getting some steam. So I'll let Kevin kind of lead the way talking about the Big 12, and then we'll kind of move to the next conference.
Certainly. Well, I mean, first off, Texas Tech was as much of a grinder of a basketball game as I've seen in quite some time. I mean, talk about 2 teams that really, really get into you defensively, 2 teams that are very well coached. Mac McClung had a great game. Terrence Shannon had a great game. This feels like Texas Tech is still finding finding their consistency on the offensive end. They just don't have it quite yet. Tyler Edwards was held scoreless in this game in 36 minutes. That's not who he is. Micah Peavy's giving him a nice lift as this, great glue guy who can do a little bit of everything, but they just don't have the firepower that I thought they did. Amari Burnett has been quiet. Demarius Burton, for the most part, has been quiet, especially in their biggest games. So, we'll see. It's going to take them a little time. Big time win for Kansas on the road. Tough place to play with some fans in the stands who were a factor in that ball game. The other thing I'll shout out in this league is, obviously Baylor dominated against K-State, but I think the great thing about conference play is people like to think the one game define. Okay, well, they got blown out by this team, they must be worse. Like, there's just weird things that happen in conference play. So Kansas State, the team coming off the 1-point win over Milwaukee, the 13-point blowout loss to Fort Hays State, getting handled by UNLV, getting handled by Drake. They turn around and they go on the road to Iowa State and beat Iowa State. Like, completely random result in like the grand scheme. Like, no one would have predicted that to happen. Then Iowa State turns around, in a game that you really should be, people would call it like an embarrassing loss. They turn around and they lead late against West Virginia. They couldn't finish the job, but they led that game very late in the contest, lost it by 5 on the road in Morgantown, a top 5 team in KenPom, West Virginia. Like, it's a weird sport, man. Like, these things happen. You got to come every night. You got to come for 40 minutes. Otherwise, someone's going to come get you.
Yeah, I think conference play is always like that. I mean, you're more familiar with your opponent. You're having to play at your highest level every single night. Again, the coaches are familiar, the players are familiar, and to play at a high level every night is really hard. And these times don't make it any easier. So I think you'll see a lot of scores that are kind of like, well, they beat them. Oh, wait a minute, they turned around and beat them. Going back to the Big Ten AC Challenge, I'm shocked that Louisville lost to Wisconsin at that big of a margin. There's no reason why you would think that would happen. 2 top 25 teams playing, you wouldn't expect that to happen. But you never know what's going to happen in college basketball. That's why we love it. And anything else out of the Big 12, Texas obviously playing really well at a high level. Greg Brown starting to really play like the elite player that he was projected to be. Had a monster double-double against Oklahoma State, where Cade Cunningham and him, former AAU teammates with Texas Titans, playing against each other. That was a big-time matchup. Anything else out of this league that you want to touch on? I know Baylor's obviously the cream of the crop with Kansas right now. I do think Texas Tech, as always, when Chris Beard teams usually get going as the year goes on with the way he coaches them. So a lot of new faces. So we'll move to our last Power 5, which is the SEC. Anything in the SEC that you'd love to talk about?
Man, Kentucky is on the verge here. It's going to get you look at it and you say it's going to get tough just to get to the NCAA tournament. I think we all believe they're going to turn it around, and at some point you think they will, but at 1-5, you're talking about needing to go 12-6 in the league to get over 500. 11-7 would put you at 12-12. First off, if I'm John Calipari, I got to find a way to sneak in an extra bye game. I think you have room for one in the schedule. I got to find a way to play. Find me the worst team I can play. Just get a win, because literally the concern is finishing over 500 to qualify for the NCAA tournament, unless they waive that rule for this year. They got some problems to work through. They're still dealing with some chemistry stuff. It's a crazy, crazy year. Arkansas bounced back after a rough first half to beat Oral Roberts by 11. Justin Smith with 22 and 17, including 10 offensive rebounds. Big time performance from him. What else we got? Mizzou was quiet this week. I don't think they played. Ole Miss had a tough game. They lost at Dayton. That's a tough game to play on the road. Dayton's guards, I think, had 55 of their 65. That trio for Dayton is really, really special. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Otherwise, how about this one for a shout out? How about Georgia? We talked about them last week at 5-0. We said, oh, well, they haven't played anybody. Well, they played Cincinnati on Saturday, and they beat them big. They blew them out. Really locked down Cincinnati. They shot 5 for 29 from 3. Severe Wheeler, their terrific young point guard, 12.7 assists. Got 18 points from Justin Kier. Their sophomore big guy, Chumani Kamara, is a really interesting kid who's Probably got pro future at 6'8", young guy. I think he's from Belgium. Yeah, that's correct, Belgium. They use him as a small ball 5. He was really good, 19 and 10 in this game, and then Ty Fagan had a big game as well. So Georgia's 6-0 under Tom Crean. Not sure I'm buying them as a tournament team, but that's a big time win to get the ball rolling and head into conference play. They have one more against Northeastern, and they're good to go. I think you're muted.
Here we go. We have multiple undefeated teams in this conference. Arkansas sitting at 7-0. Georgia, as you mentioned, shout out to Xavier Wheeler from Texas, high-level point guard making plays, one of the best true point guards in the country. Missouri, we talked about them before, just being an older team and how they've really played well, beat a good Illinois team. We mentioned that last episode. Tennessee at 4-0. The SEC is looking like a really strong conference, and like you said, Kentucky's going to have their hands full. They're 1-5 right now, sitting at the bottom, and there's no games you can circle and say, wow, they're really going to have a great chance to dominate this game. I mean, the SEC is as good of a conference with teams playing well as anybody. I want to give a special shout out to the Florida player, Keontae Johnson, who is now really making progress as far as being able to speak to the team. He's FaceTime. It looks like he's really getting back healthy. We want to continue to pray for him and lift him up, but definitely wanted to make sure we acknowledge that great news today as well.
Yeah, it's great to see. Glad he's doing okay. Glad he, seems to be in good spirits. Hopefully he can, make a full recovery and return to his team. Hopefully return to the game of basketball at some point when it's right, when he's healthy and able to do so. But I mean, I think everyone was just down last week, just hoping he would find a way to pull through, and was in a coma, medically induced coma. For him to be out feeling better and able to talk to the team and send out a message to everybody, and a video that he posted on Twitter said, "I'm not done yet." Thought that was really awesome, and I think great news for everybody in the world of basketball who was rooting him on to make it through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really exciting to know that a young man who's got that much promise, and any athlete, you never want to see that to happen. So glad to see that great things are progressing there. Let's go to the Northeast, and let's go straight to the Big East. Had a buzzer beater yesterday with Xavier beating Marquette at the buzzer. Xavier remains undefeated. Let's talk about Northeast region and Big East.
How about Xavier, man? I mean, that shot from Adam Kunkel, it just seems like somebody different every night for them. They come off an 11-day shutdown. They had a COVID problem. I know their starting point guard, Dwan Odom, didn't play in this game. Paul Scruggs has been playing at a high level, but it seems like someone else every night. Fremantle struggles in that game, their best big guy. But they get 22 off the bench from Kunkel, who hits the buzzer beater. They get good minutes off the bench from guys like Brian Griffin. To win against a good Marquette team is very impressive. So, like where they're at right now, Providence with a big time win in overtime over Seton Hall on the road. A nice bounce back. They weren't pleased with how they played in Maui, and so for them to turn around, they beat TCU on the road and then get a huge game from Nate Watts. At 23 and 11 yesterday, as well as David Duke, who had 18 and 10, to will them on the road past a good Seton Hall team led by Sandro Mamukelashvili was really, really impressive. And particularly after they took a haymaker right down the stretch. They were leading almost the entire second half. Mamu, who had struggled in the game coming into that point, dunked all over, I think, Greg Gant coming over to help. Dunked on him, drew the foul, had a chance for a three-point play, made the free throw, tied the game. You go to overtime. That's like, all right, it's over, right? You're on the road. The momentum swung. And so for Providence to turn around and find a way to win that game says a whole lot, and that's a big-time win for their NCAA tournament hopes. Whenever you can win on the road in that league is huge. Otherwise, Creighton found a way to beat UConn. UConn's first game back in the Big East. That's the other thing of note. Creighton didn't have their best game. Christian Bishop had 19 to lead the way, and they were able to just hold off a UConn team that got 40 from James Bouknight. They just need more from their bench guys. UConn needs more from their second scorers, from their third scorers. Tyrese Martin had 2 points in the game. They need more from him. They need more from RJ Cole, who missed 2 big free throws late in the game. They need more from their big guys. I like this kid, Adama Sanogo. They have 6'9" freshman big guy, but they just don't have a lot of scoring outside of Book Night. And so to get 40 on your home court from your best player and not win, it feels like a missed opportunity, regardless how good you think Creighton is, which I think they are very good.
Yeah, Creighton sitting at 6-2, definitely one of the better teams in the conference. Of course, Xavier 8-0. You talked about Providence. Villanova 7-1, sitting good in the league. And everyone else has kind of really competed. Huskies 3-1. They haven't played as many games. DePaul yet to play a game yet. I don't think that they're like the Ivy League and announced that they haven't played. But you being right there in Chicago, you can mention that real quick.
They've had some issues. They had a shutdown. They're ready to go play Iowa State. They tested positive day of game, canceled their game, shut down for another week, got ready to go, had another couple of days of practice, got ready to play another game, got shut down again. So they're having some, them and Siena can't seem to figure out how to avoid these positives. They keep having another one pop up as soon as they're ready to go again. So I know I was talking to, I've heard from some people. I know that Andrew Slater tweeted they've been having some false positive issues at DePaul and trying to work through those. I think there's been issues with leagues and public health departments not having a protocol for a false positive, which is, in my opinion, just very short-sighted. But hopefully they can work out things like that as we go through the season. They've been frustrated. There's a few teams like that. I know Cal State Fullerton hasn't played, or maybe they played once and now shut down for a while. Siena, obviously, Merrimack's not going to get started until the new year. Everybody's dealing with it in different ways, but if you're Siena and DePaul have really taken the brunt of it so far this season. I was talking to Siena's director of ops yesterday for a story, and man, the things they have been through the last month. I mean, they were COVID-free. They didn't have a single case. Their campus had never had more than 30 active cases the entire semester. And then a week before the season starts, they get their first case. Then as soon as they're ready to get going again, another case. They're ready to go. They have 3 more games. Another case. I mean, they have 3 more days till a game. Another case. I mean, it's just you can't make it up. And you feel for everybody. You hope that you'll figure it out, and everybody stays locked in. I think that's the challenge. And you're dealing with 18, 21-year-olds, and I mean, I would be pulling my hair out. I'm sure coaches are, but the players especially, going in and out of quarantine. Hopefully, everybody can stay safe, and it's a great story come March for those guys.
Yeah, you give so much credit to. I mean, look at Gonzaga, who had been off of playing games and come back and play a top 5 team and play like they've been playing, like they just played yesterday. So definitely difficult challenges, and definitely, just kind of wait and see for everybody. But let's talk Northeast Region, America East Conference really quick. We'll jump straight to that league and kind of just cover a little bit going on there. Anything that jumps out to you? We got UMBC sitting at 6-1 and Hartford 5-2 at the top of the league. They have started conference play with 2 games. Anything that jumps out to you there?
Yeah, 3 conference series happened over this weekend, I should say. 2 more happening, or one more series happening early this week with Vermont getting started their season against UMass Lowell, a pretty good UMass Lowell team. UMBC swept the series against Albany on the road. That's big time. Albany is playing its, I believe, first 2 games of the year, so that is challenging. But UMBC off to a 6-1 start. They really deserve all the love because they beat George Washington, local team. They beat Delaware, local team. They beat Coppin, local team. We talked about that last week. Turnaround sweep a series. I mean, they got a lot of good players. Veteran guards, veteran wings. A very good coach in Ryan Odom. They're in really good shape. And then Stony Brook sweeps its opening series against a Binghamton team. They win in overtime on their second game. They're a team that's working at a ton of new players, new faces, and have gotten off to a decent start, all things considered, at 4-4.
Yeah, let's go straight to the Colonial Conference from there and talk a little bit about what's going on there. They have not started conference play yet. Elon's at 3-1, Drexel 5-2. A lot of teams kind of jumbled up in between there. Anything that sticks out or you'd like to cover within the Colonial?
Drexel 5-2 deserves a lot of love. 2 wins this week, including a home win against the city rival in St. Joe's. They have a great point guard in Cameron Winter, really figuring it out. I was excited about Elon coming into the year. They haven't really played anyone too tough yet until Saturday when they lost to UNCG. They're playing a lot of really talented youngsters, though. between Hunter McIntosh and Hunter Woods, and they have a kid. I think he's been out so far this season. Zach Irvin, a shooter. He was Mac McClung's running mate for Gate City in Virginia. That like crazy high school team that got all the buzz. He was running mate. He averaged like 11 points a game last year. Doesn't look like he's played this year, but he's a talented kid. They had a kid, Jaden Michael, who is a like top 150-ish recruit, athletic kid who's going to Wichita State and then opened up and wound up going to Elon instead of a high major. Stay local, and he'll be a good player for them. He dealt with some injuries, but he's starting to get healthy and should be a good piece for them. So that's a program on the right track without a doubt. And Northeastern at 1-3. Let's not forget about them because they played a tough schedule. They've played UMass twice, then Syracuse, then Old Dominion. Both Syracuse and Old Dominion on the road. They're playing young players, but they have some nice pieces. Tyson Walker is a stud at point guard. They hung in with Syracuse for 40 minutes despite him getting injured in that game against Cuse. Coleman Stuka has been good. Jameel Telfort from New Hampton School is a really, really impressive kid. I really like this Northeastern team.
Yeah, and we'll move straight last spots in the Northeast region, the MAC and the NEC conferences. We'll go MAC first with 2 A's. Kind of talk a little bit about that conference. And
yeah, we said how difficult it's going to be to get sweeps, and then we turn around and we get Iona sweep a weekend, we get Marist sweep in a weekend, we get Niagara sweep in a weekend. We got Siena and Quinnipiac still not playing for their at least not in conference games. So waiting to see what we get. There will be games eventually for those clubs, and for now, I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to St. Peter's at 3-1 in the league. Split a weekend series on the road against Monmouth, both the same score, 78-76, 1 win, 1 loss. How about that?
How about that?
That's all I got on the MAC today. We got to talk Marist, so we'll
talk Marist. We'll move on. We'll go NEC. Of course, Marist 3-1, St. Peter's 3-1, and Iona 3-1 in that league. Then we'll go straight to the NEC. Yeah,
Bryant 6-2. The story continues. Swept Wagner last week. They have a big game today against UMass. That'll be a very interesting game. Again, this is a roster that looks like an A10 roster. It looks like a CAA roster. It does not look like an NEC roster. They're very good, very impressive. Danielle Marshall, 2 conference wins already at CCSU, splitting both series so far. That's something that deserves some love, given that they were truly horrible last year. Went 4-27, beat 3 D1 teams all year long. We're 347th in KenPom. So it was a young team. They look better now. That's all you can ask for. You're trying to build it. Otherwise, don't really have a ton. LIU Brooklyn, we'll give them a shout out. First time they played all year. Had a week series against Sacred Heart. They split the pair. 75-55 win the first game, lose by 15 the second game. No rhyme or reason. College basketball, baby.
Just like that. College ball, you got to love it. Got to love it. Let's go straight to let's go Midwest. Let's talk a little bit of let's go A10. That's one of the higher power conferences within this Midwest region that we cover. Talk a little bit about the A10 and what's happened there. I know let me think. Richmond got a big win. And there's plenty of other teams in this conference. I mean, this conference is as good as any mid-major conference in the country. So I'll let you kind of lead the way on the A10.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great league. I'm writing a piece every week now for Sports Illustrated called Stars of the Week. And I tell you, the A10 was one of my stars this week because Richmond beat Vandy and Loyola Chicago. St. Louis, beat NC State. Could not finish the job with Minnesota, but they have a great resume. We mentioned them. Dayton beat Ole Miss this week. UMass had the 37-point outburst from Trey Mitchell. I mean, it was a great week for the league. Now Davidson gets a conference win over URI, and that's going to be a really interesting thing with the A10. I was asked about this on someone else's podcast. Like, what do you think bids-wise for the A10? How many can they get? And I said, the biggest challenge is you got a bunch of good teams that are going to beat each other up.
Yep.
Like St. Louis and Richmond have done enough work in the non-con to get there. Maybe even VCU. I don't know if they quite have. But you're going to have a bunch of these teams in like the 50 to 75 range in KenPom. They're just going to beat each other up. And 10-8 Davidson, the A10 doesn't get in, even though 10-8, X team in the ACC does. Yep. That's just how it works.
Yep.
And it sucks. But you almost need this clear hierarchy where you have 4 or 5 really good teams beat up on the rest of the league, wipe them all out, get your wins. Because otherwise, you wind up with the situation that they're going to have, which is, all right, well, VCU is great. They're 18-13. They're going to the NIC.
Right.
But that's the league, and that's gonna be tough. St. Bonaventure got 2 wins to start their season. Akron and Hofstra, 2 tough games. Shout out to them. Otherwise, that's all I got.
Yeah, kind of like what you talked about in that league. The hard part is that because there's not a lot of teams ranked in the top 25, it makes it where those quality wins, they don't get quite the same amount of love that a team in the Power Conference would. But we'll switch from in Midwest region to the Ohio Valley and talk a little bit about the Ohio Valley Conference really quickly as we kind of keep going coast to coast.
Yeah, I mean, my first thing is this. I get that it's tough to schedule this year, schedule games when you can play them. But I got to say, I'm very sad that Murray State and Austin Peay, their 2 games were being played on Tuesday the 8th, which is ACC Big Ten Challenge Day, and then they play each other today, Monday the 21st. We got to wipe these games out before the new year. I mean, can't this be like Thursday night ESPNU in mid-February? This is what we're looking for. We'll see if Austin Peay bounces back. This is the game I'm looking forward to. Austin Peay is a team that really hasn't lived up to the expectations, the hype so far this season. Got blown out by Murray State by 30 in their opener, or their conference opener, and lost by 6 to Florida A&M on Tuesday. Let's see if they come out with some fight. Let's see if they hang in. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. It's a tough game at Austin Peay for Murray State. Otherwise, in the league, I would shout out Belmont. To get off to a 7-1 start. I know that they lost to Samford, but they've played well, and they have some good young players. Luke Smith, a D3 transfer, is leading them in scoring right now, shooting 48% from the 3. He is a sniper. Jacoby Wood, a freshman guard that they really, really like. This kind of dynamic athlete who can handle the ball, play on or off it, and he'll get to the basket. He's been very good as well. So Belmont on the right track. Seems like those 3 will run the league yet again. Although let's not forget about your Tennessee Martins 3-1 and EKU at 6-2 and things like that. So it's a good league. Can be competitive.
Yeah, we'll go straight to Missouri Valley next. Drake really playing at a high level. Did a special segment kind of on one of their assistant coaches talking about their undefeated start and how well they're playing. So they're 8-0 now. Southern Illinois is 5-0, and Missouri State 2-0. So we got 3 undefeated teams in this league. Definitely some good basketball being played, and we had a good matchup between Loyola Chicago and Richmond, if I'm not mistaken. So and Richmond was able to come out of that one in a close one. What's your thoughts on this league, and what do you see out of it so far?
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I think the frustrating thing, and again, it's not something that people like to talk about in December because there's so much more to go. But the at-large picture has to start being considered. And you sit there and you say, all right, the 3 teams you expect to be at-large, potentially caliber. You've got Bradley, who's 6-2, but no quality wins. We'll see if they can steal one here in their final game of non-conference against Mizzou. That would maybe change the game. But assuming they don't win that game, you're talking Bradley's going to be 6-2, but not large caliber wins. Loyola Chicago misses its opportunities against Wisconsin. Richmond can't get those wins. Northern Iowa misses its opportunities to cross over. Now AJ Green out for the year. So it just stinks. Maybe if Drake or Southern Illinois, who are both undefeated, go on a real heater and go 20-5 or something like that, maybe they play in the mix. But it's just disappointing because it's such a good league, and you're sitting there and you're saying, all right, we got 5 excellent teams or 4 excellent teams here, and one of them gets to dance. But that's where we're at. And so I'm excited about conference play. It's going to be a war. It always is. It's always grinded out games, great defenses. Really big shout out to Drake with where they're at 8-0, and I love their point guard Roman Penn. They just need, they haven't played the toughest schedule. One more against North Dakota on Tuesday, and then into league play. So we'll see how they handle it. And then obviously shout out to Coach Mullins at Southern Illinois, who's really building them the Loyola way at SIU and Carbondale. They're out to a 5-0 start with a win over Murray State in there as well. So they're in good shape with some very talented young guys like Ben Harvey, Marcus Domask, and Lance Jones, And then they have a freshman big guy, Kyler Filowich. I think I butchered his name. I don't care. He's Canadian. He's very talented. Talented kid.
Yeah, we'll go stay in Midwest region and go to the MAC conference. Ohio's a team we've talked about some. Bowling Green as a team we've recognized on this show as well. Ball State off to a 1-0 start in conference play. They started. Western Michigan as well. Toledo also 1-0. So conference play has started. No clear-cut favorite just yet, but definitely some good basketball being played in the MAC.
Wide open. Wide open. Western Michigan, 2-4. They're playing better basketball than I think a lot of people expected them to play. Open conference play with a win over Central in state game, and they're playing their new coach, playing some new guys. Really been impressed with how they've come out. I know they had a couple of tough losses earlier in the week, but beat Central was a big deal. And then, like you said, it's been very divided up at the top. I think I said a lot of what I said last week, but Toledo probably deserves the most credit this week to get 2 wins, one over Marshall and one over Valpo. 2 very good teams in the mid-major in the region as mid-majors, and Seth Milliner continues to play at a really high level. The JUCO kid they brought in from the state of Arkansas in double figures every single game so far this season. 15 against Marshall, 14 against Valpo. He has been very, very consistent. Unfortunately, no more 17-point games. I mentioned it last week that I think 5 of his first 7 games he scored exactly 17. Couldn't quite get to 17 his last 2 games. So really let me down here.
Couldn't quite get it done for you.
I need it to happen. I need him to have like 15 games this year where he scores 17 points on the nose.
He's still got some games left. Hopefully we can get that done.
Yes,
we'll go our last one in this region, which is the Horizon Conference. They started conference play, so that's always competitive to see what happens in conference play. Had some of those, as Kevin has spoken about, some of those swings where you're playing multiple games, the same team multiple times. We got Wright State had a series with Detroit. They're 2-0. Milwaukee had a series against their rival Green Bay. They're 2-0. UIC, new head coach there. Coach Luke is now 2-0. He had a great start to their conference play. And then Cleveland State, we talked about the monster outburst. I think we may have mentioned it early on by their JUCO transfer playing really well. They're 2-0. And then we had 2 splits, Youngstown 1-1 and Northern Kentucky. They had a great battle back and forth. And then the rest of the league 0-2. And then Robert Morris has not yet played in conference play, nor has IUPUI. So anything you want to touch on out of there? Wright State probably the clear-cut favorite. Then shout out to Milwaukee and Coach Luke and Coach at Cleveland State for all starting 2-0.
Yeah, Wright State certainly the favorite. How about this for you? Couple fun nuggets. So Cleveland State, like we mentioned, they had the game where they gave the 40-0 run to Ohio. They were down like 80-40 in that game. Well, yesterday against Fort Wayne, they led 66-32. So how is it? I mean, it's just wild in college basketball. You can have 2 Division I teams in the same region that you play one game, you're down by 40. 2 weeks later, you're up by 40. Just wild to me. Against teams in your same like level of spending and all that. Des Moines Hodge scored 31 points in the first half yesterday. He had only scored 26 points the entire season before that. This is a kid I was very excited about at JUCO. Hadn't quite put it together yet, but he was my guy. He was my pick. He was the dude that was going to shock the world. I was going to be like, I nailed it. Look at me. So I'm claiming it now. We're stopping the count. I won. Des Moines Hodge is great. He's a stud. He's going to ball out. He knocked him down from deep yesterday. 10 for 15 from beyond the arc. He had 42 points with 15 minutes to go in the game. Then cooled it off. They pulled their starters, and Fort Wayne was able to get back in it. But he was dominant. Big time year for him, and one of the best performances I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, and anytime you can have a performance like that, it just puts you into another category of confidence, right? You're going forward. Now you're in conference play. Now you're able to really establish yourself and be comfortable pushing forward. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and do the Southeast, Southwest, West, and Rocky Mountain really quickly as we go coast to coast in the next 30 minutes.
Welcome to All Access Coaches Corner, where our mission is to serve coaches, share their stories, and spotlight their programs with our host, Brian Burton. A longtime successful college basketball coach, former championship collegiate point guard, husband, and father, Brian is now the vice president of Rising Coaches Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Alliance for men's basketball, an empowerment coach and founder of B3 Legacy Sports and the All Access Network. Sports broadcaster and host for All Access Coaches Corner and All Access Sports Media, Coach Burton is now using his successes, experiences, and connections to be a point guard in the sports industry at all levels, with a mission to help others to further their success. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join us in the All Access Coaches Corner.
We're back. We're going to get the second half of our coast-to-coast coverage. We're going to go straight to the Southeast region, talk a little bit of Conference USA, buzzer beater win for Western Kentucky this weekend. La Tech has continued to play well. They have not started conference play. Marshall's still one of the teams that's never talked about it at 5-1. And just a lot of good basketball being played. Obviously, you mentioned UTEP getting a big win over Arizona State. There's just been a tremendous amount of good basketball being played in this league. So looking forward to conference play, but anything that stands out or that you'd like to recognize in this league before we move to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful this is a multi-bid league this year. It's just so good. It's such a talented league. I think Western Kentucky did their work early at the Crossover Classic. Unfortunately, that Northern Iowa win may not age quite as well as they'd hoped. I think it'll still be a good win, but maybe not an elite win. The Memphis win also not quite aging as well as they'd hoped, but another good team. So can those wins plus Rhode Island at home and Alabama on the road be enough to push you into the at-large mix, into the at-large conversation before conference season? I think it certainly does. And they have two pretty relatively easy games wrapping up non-league play with a couple bottom 30 teams in Ken Palm and Tennessee Tech and Mississippi Valley State. They finish those two off, and you're moving into a spot where you go into league play feeling good at 7-2, 8-2, and see if they can go get a 13-5 or a 14-4 in the league and get into the at-large mix, and we'll see how that fares. But I think with the UAB at 7-1, with Marshall at 5-1, with North Texas, I mean UTEP playing well, Louisiana Tech at 6-2, a little bit better than I expected them to be. FIU 5-2, another solid team under Jeremy Ballard. They lost a tough double overtime game against Georgia Southern on Saturday, but it's a very good team. This league is going to be tough, and the question is, can the team at the top like Western find their way to getting to 14-4 and getting the NCAA tournament? I hope they can. I hope this can be finally we get multiple bids back to USA, because it's been a fun league to watch so far this season. So many good teams, and we'll see how those conference series go, because I think it's going to have potential to be wild. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And you mentioned Jeremy Ballard; he's done a terrific job there. Coach Sanchez with Charlotte has done a great job turning that program around and making it one of the better teams in this conference. They're 3-3 now. They've won 2 in a row, and North Texas hasn't quite gotten off to a great start necessarily, but I think if you watch North Texas last year, they had a really challenging non-conference schedule, and then it paid dividends for them when they got to conference. And then the other team, I just like to kind of recognize, I know they're not playing their best basketball yet, but UTSA has as much firepower on their roster as anybody, so they always get going in conference play as well and make it really competitive. So yeah, looking forward to seeing kind of how that whole conference continues to unfold. Let's talk a little bit about the A-Sun and the Big South. We'll go kind of both at once and lead it by the A-Sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to pull up my little notes here. Liberty had a pretty quiet week schedule-wise. Played South Carolina State and a non-Division I team, won both by big totals. Good for them. Heading to conference play at 7-3. Like where you have to be at if you're Liberty at 7-3, given what they've had to replace. Not a ton. A lot of teams were quiet this week. North Alabama at 4-2 now, got a couple non-Division I wins. Lipscomb at 3-5. Got a non-Division I win this week. Pretty quiet week. Don't have a ton here.
And Liberty won 3 in a row after having as tough a schedule as anybody coming out. And then Stetson won 2 in a row after starting out without getting any wins. So, just the league itself definitely looks like Liberty's league, and seeing who can catch them at the top, and then replacing so many guys and doing a good job. So we'll shift swiftly over to the Big South, and Winthrop is definitely the talk. Played a dominant game against a really good Furman team. Winthrop is definitely the team that looks like they are the clear-cut favorite at 5-0. Next behind them, they have started conference play. They're 2-0 in conference. UNC Asheville, credit to them for getting off to a 2-0 start. They've kind of struggled to get going the last couple of years in conference play. It's year 3 now for coach there. So, and then Radford's 2-0 as well. So anything in this league you want to cover before we jump to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people after the football team that they followed for 4 years loses a tough game in the Big Ten championship game, really competes for 40 minutes, or 60 minutes. They'd feel, upset. They'd go home, they'd pout, they'd sit around, they'd want to not do anything but watch sports. But I sat down, I fought through it. I watched that Winthrop Furman game for you. I needed to have the takes. Here we are. And I thought Winthrop played a whale of a ball game. I mean, I continue to be very, very impressed. This is a team that their depth really continues to shine through. They had 3 bench guys in double figures in that game against Furman. There's just not a lot of mid-majors anywhere, really any team, but I think especially at the mid-major level that have the bench that they have with Russell Jones, Chase Claxton. They bring Adonis Arms off the bench in this game. Jamal King had 11 points in this ball game. They're just deep as heck, man, and this just makes them very hard to deal with. And they're very well coached. They play fast. They shot 61% on 2-point shots in that game, hit some threes, won the rebounding battle. This is a very, very good team that Winthrop has. And again, it's unfortunate that the selection committee isn't going to say, oh, look, they beat Greensboro, Little Rock, and Furman. They should get in. But I tell you what, beating Greensboro, Little Rock, and Furman, I don't think it's any easier than beating, Georgia Tech and Boston College. And that's not a knock on Georgia Tech and Boston College. That's just how good these other teams are.
Yeah, we'll go from that part of the Southeast region. We'll go to the Southern Conference, led by another really, really good team in Chattanooga, who we mentioned earlier. 8-0. They haven't probably gotten as much love as they deserve to. And then Citadel Bulldogs, 6-0 themselves, and we've already kind of recognized Mercer earlier in the year on this show. And then Western Carolina sitting at 7-2. So strong league in the Southern Conference. We'll let you lead the way on this one.
Yeah, Lamont Paris deserves all the love in the world, especially after they lose their starting point guard and David Jean-Baptiste. To come out and to beat Asheville and UAB this week says a whole lot about where they're at. Malachi Smith, their transfer from Wright State, has been a revelation. 16 points and 10 rebounds in that win over UAB. He actually leads the country in double-doubles, to my knowledge, right now. He has been a beast, and they got some big shots from Trey Dooms off the bench in this ball game. He's going to need to continue to step up if Jean-Baptiste stays away from the team, and that's a big-time win. We'll see if they can keep it up. But at 8-0, headed into Tennessee State and then conference play, have to feel really good about where they are at in a crowded league. And then Western Carolina as well deserves some attention, deserves some love. Beat College of Charleston on the road in overtime on Friday. And they're a team that really will benefit from this waiver for all the transfers to play. They had a kid come in, Corey Hightower. He was a Presbyterian with Dustin Kearns, stayed 1 year for Quentin Farrell, then hit the portal. And he's a very versatile kind of Swiss Army knife type guy at 6'7", does a lot of different things for you, gets to the free throw line, can pass, can rebound. He gives them a third option. They have a great point guard in Mason Faulkner. They have a very good big man in Xavier Cork, and then some guys on the wing. And he gives them another option there. So I'm very excited about what Hightower brings to the table. I think they'll be in great shape. It's going to be a very crowded, very tough league every night in and night out.
And then lastly, just touch on real briefly the MEAC.
Yeah, certainly. Just pulling up my notes again here because the computer is operating a bit slowly. It feels like it was a quiet week. I just don't feel like there was a ton of action off the top of my head. At the expense of Morgan State, I should give a shout out to West Virginia Tech, an NAIA team that beat Morgan State on Saturday. That's big time, right? That doesn't happen very often. We should savor those. And Morgan State coming off a pretty great win against Iona 11 days ago to win that game. This is a lot about non-Division I basketball and how talented it is top to bottom. NCA&T continues to deserve celebration for playing as many games. They're at 11 now. They played Greensboro on Friday and Charlotte on Saturday. Played a close game with a very good Charlotte team. Playing a lot of different guys in the backcourt. They're a talented group. They're going to be tough to crack. So, hey, man, that's all what it's all about. 11 games in less than a month.
Yeah, we'll go straight to we'll move next to the Southwest Conference. We'll go straight to the American. I know we usually lead with Houston, and it's hard not to with the way that they play. But the SMU Mustangs sitting at 5-0, playing some really good basketball. Tyson Jolly, really good JC transfer from Trinity Valley. You got Ferron Hunt, but led by Kendrick Davis, who arguably is probably one of the best performers to this point in the year at the point guard position. Transferred from TCU. They've just continued to play really at a high level. They played a close game with Dayton a while back and won by 2. But other than that, they've pretty much been dominant. Haven't played an extremely hard schedule just yet, but they have not lost a game yet and look to be the team to be able to compete to give Houston the biggest trouble in this conference. They did beat them last year. They split, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They won in Dallas last year. So let's talk a little bit about the American Conference. Also, be remiss if I didn't mention huge win for UCF against Florida State as well. In-state game, big-time performances there. So I'll let you kind of jump into this American Conference.
Yeah, SMU with Yor and I getting eligible with the immediate eligibility for all the transfers. He'll help them. Kid from Oklahoma State, protects the rim. He's dealing, I think, with a wrist infection. It's going to take him a little time, but once he gets going, I think he's going to be a really impactful player for this team and for this program. UCF, big time win, right? I mean, it's all about. They've played 3 games so far: Auburn, Michigan, and Florida State. I got to tell you, if I was someone at UCF, I would be examining Johnny Dawkins' head, because I don't know why you aren't getting yourself some bye games, some wins on the schedule. But hey, man, if you want to play those 3 games, they go 2-1. I think that's the best possible outcome. I don't think anyone would have expected that. They got 32 from Brandon Mahan yesterday. He had an awesome game. Their freshman wing, Isaiah Adams, had 22 in this ball game. Got to the free throw line with regularity. They haven't gotten a ton from Darius Perry or CJ Walker. They're 2 highly touted transfers, but off to a very good start on the season and put 86 points on a Florida State defense that is not used to giving up 86 points. So a lot of credit there. And then the final team I'll shout out, Wichita State, got their first conference win, 69-65 road win at Tulsa. Isaac Brown gets his first win as his first conference win as head coach of the Shockers.
Yeah, definitely want to give him his credit. That's a tough situation, as we've mentioned before, and great conference right here. I mean, not as strong in some ways, with maybe not having Wichita State as dominant as they had been at a time period, and then same with Cincinnati kind of finding their way still, but still high-level basketball being played, and Houston and SMU look to lead the way on that. Let's talk about the Sun Belt Conference. We mentioned that a little bit with Coach Ryan Cross, who was on earlier. We know South Alabama had a tough loss, but there's a lot of good teams in this league that kind of deserve to get a little more credit in this conference.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Georgia State avenged its earlier loss to Mercer. We discussed with them that they were playing. We've talked to both their coaches. I mean, they talked about playing that series that they played home and home. And how about that? I mean, they split it. Each team wins their home game. Continue to get a great ball from Alil Sosame, very good big man transferring from Cincinnati. Little Rock could deal with some COVID issues. Now they're back going and kind of went over a non-Division I somewhere called Champion Christian, which I can't say I've ever heard of. Couldn't place it on a map, but it's a win. Win is a win. And Louisiana and Coastal Carolina at 6-1 each. Appalachian and Georgia Southern at 6-2. Georgia Southern at 6-2 with Coach Brian Berg. Their first year for a new coach. Obviously, 4 of those wins are non-Division I, but you beat FIU on Saturday in double overtime, which is a big time win. They're getting some really good play from Zach Bryant, who came in from UAB, was a talented scorer there. Eric Boone, who I think is a JUCO kid, can really score. He had 29 in this ball game. Those 2 guys setting the tone for him, and that's the type of win that propels you into league play.
Yeah, excited for Brian Burr, coach against Zach Bryant when he was at UAB. Really, really talented. I mean, he was an all-conference projected player in the Conference USA, so he's definitely going to be an impact player, continue to do big things there. Yeah, I think this league is definitely – I know Little Rock is picked as a favorite, but, man, there's some really good quality teams in this conference that are – it's going to be interesting to see not only who wins the conference, but who gets the bid to go to the tournament, because I think anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Let's talk Southland and SWAC conference at the same time. We've talked about Alabama A&M obviously playing well in the SWAC. We'll kind of go lead with that conference. They're 2-0. Anything else that sticks out in this conference?
I'm just disappointed that Prairie View had a second COVID shutdown because I really want to watch Cam Mack play. I keep saying it, but I'm annoyed. I really want to see these guys play. This virus really stinks, man. But everyone's dealing with it, as Coach Howard said, and they're in great shape to get that win. When they did, I'll give my shout out of the week in the SWAC goes to Grambling. Go on the road to Louisiana Monroe, win that game by 17 points. The Louisiana Monroe team that has some talent with two great JUCO guys and Marco Morency and Russell Harrison, as well as Kareem Ogier from Sacred Heart. They've got some talent, and so that's a nice win. They got a great performance from several guys at 4 in double figures. Good for Grambling, a team that wasn't really predicted to do much in this SWAC this season. So shout out to them. And then on the Southland front, still trying to work through who I think is really the class of the league. Pretty quiet week this week. I know Nichols has been shut down for a little bit. Stephen F. Austin back at it, had a tough loss last week to Louisiana Monroe, didn't play this week. Abilene at 7-1, played some non-D1s this week. Otherwise, don't really have a ton. It really feels like those teams have separated themselves. I will shout out to McNeese. I know they lost on Saturday to Louisiana Lafayette, but 4-3 to start the year, given everything that they have went through. And they are one of the great stories in all of college sports. Their facilities in many cases were destroyed by a couple of hurricanes that hit the region, and they had to relocate. And in some cases, kids haven't been on campus. Kids have been trying to find a gym, trying to make sure everyone's just safe. And for them to start the season, I get that it's not been tough competition that they've beaten, and we'll see how they handle the league. But that's awesome for Heath Schroyer and what he's doing there. And they've got some talent with Keyshawn Fizel from Mississippi State, the transfer in. AJ Lawson's been around forever, and a young guy like Colin Warren. So they're in good shape.
Yeah, it's crazy of a story as there's been in college basketball. Much credit to them. Cannot imagine, and still probably not completely settled, not only just from the COVID, but from the hurricane and being completely displaced and living out of hotels and living in different cities. And definitely been a really challenging road for them. We'll have to have one of their coaches on to talk about what they've been through at some point in time this season. And then Sam Houston State got a good win against Rice, kind of a local competitive game. But, this league looks like Abilene is the favorite. Stephen F. Austin is projected as the favorite. I think those teams look like they're kind of in their own little class as far as at the top, and then everyone else kind of finding out after that. We'll go straight to Rocky Mountain and go Big Sky Conference and kind of talk a little bit about what's going on in the Rocky Mountain area of the Big Sky. So nothing comes to mind. Let me pull up my notes, as you said. We said Sacramento State. We've recognized them being 3-1. Probably Southern Utah at 6-1. Probably playing some of the best basketball in the conference. They did start conference play. Montana, unfortunately, as the favorite, has not started off to a great start at 0-2.
Beat Washington though on Saturday.
They did. I was just about to say they had a big win against Washington. Hopefully that'll get them going.
Everybody's beating Washington, but good for them anyway. It still matters when you win a game like that, no matter how down it is.
You're in a Big Sky and you want to beat a Pac-12 team, especially one as good as Washington has been.
Yes,
that's definitely a big deal. Southern Utah starting conference 2-0, Eastern Washington 1-0, and Sacramento State also 2-0. I'll let you kind of jump in on the Big Sky real quick before we move to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. That 6-1 Southern Utah deserves a lot of credit. Had that sweep over Montana, beat Dixie State in state this week. They got some talented kids, right? I mean, Todd Simons did a really nice job of recruiting there and taking some shots on some kids. And they grabbed Tevian Jones, who had some issues at Illinois, but talent was never his issue, and he has been a dynamic player for them. Struggled in a game against Dixie, but had 33 points against Utah Valley. It's been in double figures all but one game this season. Very dynamic athlete. You don't get 6'7", handle the ball, run and jump like he can at that level very often. So he's a dynamic kid. They're in really good shape. Weber at 3-2, split a weekend at Portland State. I think they're in good shape, though. I think they're going to be a good team moving forward in this conference. And then Northern Colorado, at 3-2, lost a tough one Friday to Utah State, but beat Denver this week. And they have a new coach and playing some juniors. Don't have many seniors in the rotation. Still playing at a high level.
Yeah, then I will go from Big Sky to Big West and talk a little bit about this conference as well. We mentioned Northridge last time playing really well. I don't know if there's anybody that jumps out to you from the league that has played well, but Hawaii's looking at sitting at 2-0, having played a lot of games. If I'm not mistaken, UC Santa Barbara got a pretty big win recently.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough sledding, and for Hawaii in particular, they deal with some pretty stringent travel restrictions. So they've only played teams in their state. They're going to play those California games in the Big West, and essentially every other weekend they'll be flying to Cali for a weekend and play 2 games, and then they'll come home and they'll play 2 games at home the next week. So it isn't easy. I know they're going to have to be very careful with everything. It's an island, and they've been very careful with COVID because, as I understand it, a place like Hawaii doesn't have necessarily the capacity for hospitals and things like that maybe we have in the mainland. So they're being safety first, and fortunately they'll have a chance to compete, and we're certainly excited for them to have that opportunity without a doubt. But Santa Barbara 4-1, the very talented group. Played Pepperdine on Saturday. That's a big time in-state win for them, and Ja'Cory McLaughlin, who's really been around for a while, it feels like, was at Oregon State, played big minutes for them as a freshman, and then kind of fell out of rotation. Now he's back. He puts up 23 and 8 in the game, and DeVeryl Ramsey, another guy who feels like he's been here forever. He was on one of those early Nevada teams in the Mountain West. That he was on the Nevada team that with Muss that won that crazy game against New Mexico several years ago at the pit when they came back from like 14 down with a minute left. So they're playing a lot of old dudes, and when you have old dudes, you tend to win in college basketball. Miles Norris is giving us the lift as well, who's the former top 75 recruit. So they're in good shape. Really like where UCSB is at. I think they're the favorite in the league.
Yeah, I would agree. And Cal Irvine, I believe, got a pretty good win as well. They're picked to win the league. Their league play is starting here pretty soon, and I think this one's pretty open, but it looks like Santa Barbara could be the lead favorite. We'll jump from there to Mountain West Conference, and got to give a quick shout-out to Air Force. They've started conference play. They got the split with Nevada, were able to win that last game against Nevada, so shout-out to them. New Mexico's 3-0. Love to see those guys after going through what they've had to go through as well. I figured out how to get some games played. Fresno's another game, 2-1. Wyoming's played well at 6-1. San Diego State definitely a top 25 team at 5-1, and then Boise 4-1. So anything that you'd like to cover in this league, we'll jump there, and then we'll go straight to the West region after that.
Mountain West finally had a conference series. Nevada and Air Force played Friday, Sunday. We were texting about it earlier, and they split it. Joe Scott gets a nice win. San Diego State drops a game at Viejas to BYU. We'll talk about BYU later, but that was a really fun, entertaining game where Matt Mitchell nearly willed them the victory. Colorado State couldn't move the needle against St. Mary's, a team that's still working through who they are. I think they'll be good eventually. I think New Mexico, though, at 3-0 and Wyoming at 6-1. Again, schedules notwithstanding, they haven't played many people that are very good, but those are not necessarily expected scores. So excited for Wyoming, in particular. Jeff Linder doing a great job in year one, and get some wins on the board. Go 6-1 in your non-league, and then turn around, starting January with your league games, and see if you can go 7-11, go 8-12, something like that. And you do that, and all of a sudden you're sitting there at over 500 for the year, and you can really sell that to recruits. You can come play with a great point guard, Marcus Williams, come play with some younger guys that they have as well. So Jeff Linder laying the groundwork in year one.
Yeah, I may have gone a little out of order on the Rocky Mountain, but we'll go to the West and go WAC and Summit League. We have not talked about, so we'll go WAC and Summit League, and then we'll go last with we'll go with the WCC, who's not playing any good basketball at all. Sarcasm.
Let's start Summit then. South Dakota State. They didn't play this week after playing 3 games last week. I think that's kind of a similar story for a lot of these teams because North Dakota State, South Dakota State, South Dakota, and North Dakota all went to Sioux Falls and played each other in like a round robin deal, 3 games in 3 days over the weekend last weekend. So been a little bit quiet. Mentioned Oral Roberts with the SEC preview, but they played 2 competitive games against Oklahoma and against Arkansas. Oral Roberts kind of got punched in the mouth in the first game against Oklahoma. We're down big at halftime and then bounced back and competed in that game. 3 guys in double figures and actually won the second half, which I don't know how much coaches look at that, but I feel like that's a confidence booster going to a game like Arkansas. And then they punched Arkansas in the mouth in the opener and led by 10 at the break. Then turned around, just couldn't get enough stops down the stretch, gave up 57 points in the second half. But that's a team that I think will be a problem in the Summit League, without a doubt. They have a lot of talented players. It's weird. They have not beaten a D1 team, but their Division I games have been Mizzou, Wichita State, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So that's a little bit misleading to say they haven't beaten a D1 team. Obviously, they haven't done it yet. They have to go do it, but they have played some really, really challenging opponents in the non-conference. I think that'll prepare them well for conference play in a week or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll touch on the WAC real quick. I want to give a quick shout out to Rio Grande Valley, who's played good basketball. I'll let you kind of talk more about them, but Coach Lou Hill has done a terrific job really turning a program that just has never been a program consistently at the Division I level that's got much respect. So much shout out to him, former Oklahoma assistant and UNLV assistant, and his staff. And then Dixie State, the transition from D2 to Division I, done it before myself when I was at Abilene with Joe Golding and we went Division II, Division I. We did not have early success, and we did not have the success that they're having now. So credit to Dixie State getting off to, I believe it's a 4-1 start themselves. So I'll let you kind of jump in on the WAC, and then we'll go WCC and shut it down.
Yeah, 4-1 for Dixie. Really impressive for them. And also RGV at 5-2. Those are really the stories for me. But Grand Canyon lost a close game against San Francisco. They lost 2 close games back-to-back weeks. Arizona State by 1 and San Francisco by 3. 2 good teams in the region. I think those are good measuring stick games for them. Those are the types of games you need to be in if you're going to go beat New Mexico State, which is the team that you measure yourself against in the WAC. And yeah, I think I think Grand Canyon's getting there in the first year with new guys and a new coach and trying to figure out who they are and reestablish a culture. I feel like they got a little bit soft, honestly, down the stretch of the Thunder Dan era, and they're tough as nails. Ashbjorn Midtgaard, who is the Denmark native, who's a rotation player for Wichita State up front, has been a huge player for them at 18 and 10 yesterday against San Francisco. I think they're going to be a factor, and especially with New Mexico State has had so many issues. They had COVID issues. They've had issues having to move out of state. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year you pick them off. Obviously, Chris Jan's a terrific coach, but GCU and UTRGV, I think, really should be licking their chops and say, hey, okay, maybe we got a shot here. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, you want to convince yourself that you have a chance. You always want to be fighting for that chance. And New Mexico State, I mean, always overcoming adversity. They have another one of those situations. They're living at a resort because they cannot play games in their home state, so they're living in Arizona. So definitely a challenging time. They have one of their best players out for quite some time. But, you know, the thing for them is they haven't had to play games because they've had their COVID stuff going on. So never can count a team like that out, but I do think if there's anybody that's going to give them a chance to give them some competitive battles at the top, it's GCU and Rio Grande in this league right now. But I'm still going with the bad men in Las Cruces for now, as far as winning that conference. So let's talk about the WCC, our last conference. Gonzaga looks to still be the elite team in the country. I think everyone can't wait for the Gonzaga-Baylor game. We were waiting for the Gonzaga-Iowa to see how they matched up. The Gonzaga-Baylor game is probably a blessing that it's got pushed back because it gives all of us something to look forward to as far as teams at the top. I mean, I think, again, Baylor could be as good as last year and maybe some ways better. As crazy as that is to say, because those guys are back. And then obviously this kid Jalen out of Gonzaga and Drew Timme look like they could be as good of a 1-2 punch as there is. So I'll let you talk about this conference. There's also been some other good wins throughout the league. So I'll let you talk about this conference, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think what's really, really impressive here is that the league around them is getting so much better. Gonzaga's great, and they play a tough schedule, but to have St. Mary's 8-1, BYU 7-2, Santa Clara 6-0, San Francisco 6-4, Pepperdine be very competitive, Loyola Marymount at 5-3 with a first-year coach. Even Portland. I mean, I don't think Portland's going to win many games in the league, but they're 5-2 in the non-league. That matters. Like they are going in the right direction right now in this conference, and BYU at 7-2,
and not even to mention Damon Stoudemire, who did an incredible job last year, had the best year that they've had in Pacific and maybe in the history of their school, and they're 3-1. So as you said, this conference is maybe, I mean, they're up there with as much as the Atlantic 10 and Big East as far as having just quality depth to this conference. Again, you kind of
and no one's going to talk about it because Gonzaga's going to go on and beat them by 20 every night. And you're going to say, oh, well, same old WCC. These teams aren't very good, whatever. No, it's just Gonzaga's up here. Like,
right.
Gonzaga.
Everybody like that.
Gonzaga would be beating Miami by 20 if they were in the ACC. They'd be beating Texas, or not Texas, but they'd be beating Oklahoma by 20 if they were in the Big 12. They'd be doing this to anybody. This is a dang good basketball league. I'm very excited about it. I'm fired up. I think BYU at 7-2 now. BYU's played themselves into the bubble early on. To have road win at San Diego State at Viejas, neutral court win over St. John's, home win over Utah, road win over Utah State, only lost to USC and Boise, two very good teams. If they can win their next two against Texas Southern and Weber State, they're going to head into conference play with a real shot to go back to the NCAA tournament. And with Mark Pope losing what they've lost, that says a whole heck of a lot. And St. Mary's at 8-1 now after wins over Eastern Washington, Colorado State. Tommy Kuzi has been a revelation at point guard, was such a glue guy type, was a former walk-on. He has been amazing for them. He had 34 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists against Eastern Washington. One of the great stories in college basketball. They're really good. So this league is fun. San Francisco, we've mentioned a lot on the show. They're in great shape as well. Just love this league. Love this league 100%.
And again, you mentioned it. Shout out to Stan Johnson in year one. Has a great staff with 2 other former head coaches and David Carter and drawing a blank head coach that used to be at Wyoming just last year. Has a great staff, and just looking forward to seeing what he continues to build there. Year one, to be able to be that competitive early on. Shout out to Stan Johnson, a guy who I used to work with at Utah, who's a terrific human being and would do a first-class job there as he already had started to. So, yeah, WCC looks to be as deep as it's been maybe in a long time. And there we go, coast to coast. We've done it. 2 hours, 7 minutes. Got some great guests in and got a chance to get some inside perspective. And we're ending the school year as far as academic semester. We're ending the calendar year as well. So we look to do something kind of maybe a little bit exciting for us all. Going to do some how can I say this? We're going to do some awards and recognitions, but not in a live show. So we'll let you know when it drops. We'll get together and get that going out, and you guys can find it on the YouTube page, and we'll tweet some of the info out to lead you into it. But looking forward to just recognizing some of the teams that have been able to play well to this point, and some of the individual performers and some of the coaches and staffs and programs. Other than that, always good basketball to look forward to. Lots of conference play. I'll let Kevin kind of give some final thoughts and look ahead, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We're excited about it. Excited to watch a lot of good basketball in the next couple of days. Give a shout out to all the players who are going to be maybe home for the holidays this year. Not a home being on college campus, not getting to go home to their families. And I know some coaches have made a big deal that they're going to make it happen and get kids to go home. It's normally a short trip. This year, you almost want it to be a longer trip. You're going to do it so you can make sure everybody gets tested and is being safe. And it stinks, right? There's no easy answer to whether you would be playing around the holidays or not. I know that the Big Ten essentially decided, based on talking to their players, that if we were going to have the kids stay, we might as well have them play on Christmas and have them kind of have that NBA player feel. But regardless, I mean, it's just gonna be a tough holidays for a lot of people. Whether it's people who lost family members, people who just can't see their family on the holidays, and just thinking of all of them and appreciate everyone in the sport who are giving all of us a little bit of something to be happy about, be cheerful about, and really, really excited for the week and a half ahead with a lot of really good matchups and more to come on the schedule because you never know what keeps getting added. And Virginia and Gonzaga just decided they're going to play the day after Christmas. I was like, yeah, sign me up. That sounds great. So stuff like that, man. It's exciting.
Yeah, let's we'll wrap up. We'll tell a quick story for Kevin and his going home, and then we'll let him touch on it at least. He didn't go too much in depth, but this time of year, to be able to have just a couple of days at home to recharge with your families, for the players, for the coaches, is such a big deal. So just prayers out to hopefully safe travels and allowing it. I know some are saying it's not a great time to go home and be around family, but I'm sure people will use their best discretion when they are with family, but I think it's important mental health-wise. We talk about that a lot. I told Kevin before the show started, it's the first time I've been able to plan and have more than 2 or 3 days at home, not being a college coach with family. So looking forward to being able to recharge that way. And I'll let Kevin tell a quick story about how he was almost able to go home, but he's going to have to postpone it just a little bit.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. So I was supposed to go home Sunday, the 20th, the day after the Big Ten championship game. Had to cancel that because my brother, who's a women's basketball manager at Siena, tested positive in their protocol. So I was like, all right, stay home. My brother's positive. My parents came in contact with him. I'll stay in Evanston. I got my apartment. We're chilling, hanging out. We'll go home in January sometime. And then my brother tests negative on his second test, which came through because he had taken a second test before he found out he had tested positive on the last test. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll go home. So I book a flight for tonight. And I get a text this morning. Well, now my mom's positive. We came in contact with John. So John's test theoretically is actually positive. My mom's feeling great. John's feeling great. Everybody's asymptomatic. Everybody's doing great. So hopefully that continues, and hopefully they can hang in there. And I was texting my mom. I said, the worst thing in the world is that I don't come home at Christmas. I go home in January instead. We had a pretty good year, but it kind of hits all of us. So we're grateful. I guess I'm having Chinese food and watching the NBA and Big Ten on Christmas with my roommate. My roommate Eric will also be here because he was home for Hanukkah and now it's back in the Evanston area for some sports coverage for our radio station. So this will be Christmas and New Year's with the cats, as always, for me. So here we are.
Nice. Good time to do it with the cats. Cats are doing big things. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Look for the drop to come soon of kind of our 2020 acknowledgments for the season so far. And be safe. Tell your loved ones you love them. Wear a mask and eat some food and give some gifts. And don't spend too much on Amazon if you can. If you're anything like my wife, anyway. But yeah, best of holiday cheer to everyone, and look forward to some good stuff coming out soon and starting a new year.